Now, IOOF financial services business is moving on from the memorable pasting it got from the Royal Commission. Under new management, it's been better news for shareholders, first with APRA losing its case against former directors, and then last week a major class action dropped. IOOF chief Renato Mota is busy rebuilding confidence. Almost a year into the job to the day, I spoke to him from Melbourne. We kicked off with just how the business was running.
Well, certainly it's been quite an eventful year, certainly throughout 2019 and 2020. I think as our quarterly funds flows have demonstrated, we've demonstrated quite a lot of resilience as a business throughout that period. And certainly our ability to engage in a more open and more transparent way with our clients, be they investors, advisors, I think has served us really well. So our funds flows have been continue to have been strong through what has been a really challenging period for all segments of society.
Yeah, I think your announcement to the market in April, I think that was a sort of 10% jump in the share price. Part of that was this very important acquisition of the ANZ's pensions and investments. Now, that obviously increased your funds under management considerably. How important is scale?
Scale's becoming increasingly important, particularly in the context of superannuation, but more broadly in wealth management. I think one of the things that I think we're fortunate to have in the Australian context is a very competitive landscape. And that competition will ultimately drive better outcomes for clients and for members. And that better outcome in a lot of ways also means lower prices. One of the ways organisations can deliver lower prices is through increased scale. So by reducing the cost of delivering these services to consumers, they benefit from a lower price. But importantly, it does take a certain size and scale and critical mass to be able to deliver those benefits. So from an IOOF perspective, we're very confident that the acquisition of the pensions and investments business from ANZ delivers the scale and will allow us to continue to deliver better prices and better outcomes to our clients.
Now, of course, we're moving further and further away from the excoriation that IOOF got at the Royal Commission. Big news for your shareholders last week was the dropping of the class action over alleged breaches of directors' duties. You must be pleased to have that behind you.
We were always very confident in our position with respect to the class action, but yes, it is pleasing to put that behind us. And I think certainly a lot of what we experienced during 2019, and there were some really important lessons to come out of 2019. And pleasingly for IOOF, I think we've seen those lessons being applied into some of the challenges in the first half of 2020, and many of those foundations we put in place last year, I think have served us really well as we've navigated this COVID period.
Do we know anything about the settlement that you've made over the class action?
So in terms of the settlement, we've paid no consideration. There's been no monies paid to the law firms or the funders whatsoever.
OK, and any other class actions coming your way as a result of all of this that you're going to have to deal with, Renato?
There's one other class action afoot at the moment, but that would be the only one.
Right, OK. Tell me about the campaign that you're running now, particularly on the financial advisory side with COVID, offering free advice.
Yeah, so from an IOOF perspective, we're an organisation with a heritage of over 170 years of helping people, and today we're one of Australia's largest financial advice businesses. So we really challenged ourselves to think about how can we help the community in a period of real need. We're quite conscious that the crisis that began as a health crisis across the globe has become an economic crisis, and this is really impacting people in their everyday lives. Given the size and scale of our advice business, given our know-how and our capabilities, we've now created a program which we call our community program, which is offering, in partnership with our financial advisors, for those financial advisors offering pro bono advice in the community. So it's an offer for free advice and free advice assistance into the communities. And certainly for those advisors that are offering 60 hours or more of pro bono work, we're actually waiving our fees for a 3-month period.
If you think of a company like Atlassian, they're offering free services now, and they've very publicly said this is also part of our growth strategy as well. Is that how you see it as well?
First and foremost, it's actually about helping people in need. We are hopeful that this provides an opportunity for people to experience financial advice and actually gain a better understanding of how financial advice can help them. But I think that's a longer term proposition. Right now, the the catalyst for the program itself was helping people in need, and whether that's helping them understanding the current entitlements they have under either early access or JobKeeper, or whether it's them actually just understanding their own cash flow position and their own personal financial affairs. So it's really about helping people first and foremost, and hopefully through that people will get a better understanding of what financial advice is all about.
Now, of course, one thing that's happening right now is that people are being allowed to take some of their superannuation monies out. Interestingly, on super, you called out, and very early, I think back in November at a Senate hearing, that this concern over illiquid assets that have been particularly held by industry super.
Well, certainly liquidity is something that we've always had front of mind in managing people's money. We're very clear that this is other people's money, and our members have the right to move their money or withdraw their money as it suits them. So liquidity and making sure that at the point in time at which they want access to their money, we can give it to them, is of critical importance. And that's something that we've always held as a key priority for the business. What that's meant for us as an organisation during this period, and particularly with the early access to super, is that we've not had any liquidity issues whatsoever. Our funds have continued to perform as expected. We've continued to rebalance them, and we continue to actively manage the monies. But importantly, where clients have needed the money through the access to super, we've been able to give them access to that money and return the money to the members.
The other action that's been happening this week is that the Financial Planning Association wants to remove the requirement for advisors to be licensed to get rid of conflicts, reduce costs to clients. Now, you have a couple of these businesses, licensing businesses. What do you make of it all?
So we applaud the FPA for coming up with an idea. It is a big idea, and I think it requires further discussion. When I say it's a big idea, whilst on the surface it might seem like quite a straightforward suggestion or implementation, we need to be really careful that we're thinking about how do we control the quality of advice. And certainly the current licensing regime has put in place some strong controls to ensure that advice is delivered appropriately. And we've seen how important that is. And certainly from an IOOF perspective, we've invested large sums of money, particularly in the last 18 months, to ensure that we upgrade our quality of advice. So I think as we think about changing the nature of licensing, I think it's really important that we understand where that onus for quality control would sit, whether it's with the licensee as it is now, or if in fact it's to sit with individual advisors. How is that going to be funded in the new regime?
Clearly, you weren't a clean-skinned CEO coming out of the Royal Commission and replacing Chris Kelleher. You've actually spent, decades with IOOF. I wonder whether you feel that you've shifted culture at all at the organisation, and if so, in what way?
Certainly, I'm very proud of my time at IOOF, and having had 4 CEOs prior to myself stepping into the seat, I know that each CEO will bring their own flavour to the organisation. Certainly my flavour and my style of leadership is to be one that's grounded in purpose. And for me, the purpose of IOOF centres around its origins, and that those origins are helping those people that are less fortunate and helping those that need help. And I think the other thing that we've been able to do as an organisation is create a really open and transparent culture. So whether it's on my weekly webinars with my staff, but creating a sense of sharing information, being really clear on how the business is performing, and most importantly, the impact we're having on our clients.
Renato Mota, it's great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nikki.